You guys know what this represents?
Tell us, sir.
Maybe it's the calm before the storm.
What's the storm?
Could be the calm before the storm.
What storm?
We have the world's great military people in this room, I will tell you that. And we're going to have a great evening. Thank you all for coming.
What storm, Mr. President?
You'll find out.
Give us a hint of your answer.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much.
Some economic news for you this evening. A new report says 75,000 more retail stores could close in the U.S. over the next several years.
Our Ray Strickland dives into the future of retail and what we will need to change for these stores to stay alive.
The brick and mortar retail industry has been considered a dying industry, one where we've seen major big box stores like JCPenney and Sears go from boom to bust, closing thousands of its stores. Malls across the country like Chapel Hill Mall in the Akron area and Midway Mall in Elyria are struggling because of it. Now, according to a new report, the industry is going to have an even harder time surviving over the next several years. Investment firm UBS is projecting that by 2026, 75,000 more stores will close. 15,000 of them have closed in the last 2 years. Now, we did speak to shoppers here at Chapel Hill Mall in the Akron area earlier today who say what's happening across the country is sad. They're hoping for some type of solution, but the times are changing without a doubt. And the question tonight, will the industry do the same? Reporting live in Cuyahoga Falls, Ray Strickland, Channel 3 News.
Well, will society even be the same? Because that was the hub of life and social circles on weekends for a lot of kids. So we'll see what happens from here. Thanks, Ray. In a $2 billion deal, TV shopping giant QVC announcing plans today to buy its rival home shopping network based in St. Pete.
A huge merger could cost hundreds of Bay Area residents their jobs. QVC is buying St. Pete-based Home Shopping Network, which is also known as HSN. ABC Action News reporter Adam Weiner shows us what this could mean for thousands of employees, as well as you at home.
This is it.
Okay, so 5 flex pays?
For decades, it's been a staple of cable TV.
Only. Now, there may be 3 flex pays.
But for its 40th birthday, the Home Shopping Network is getting married to longtime competitor QVC. Their president, Michael George, says both channels will continue for the foreseeable future, but in some ways will combine forces.
We need to align some technology platforms. We need to negotiate new arrangements.
Negotiations could mean good things for shoppers at home.
They can go to their suppliers and say, we're going to buy all of these things, but we would like for you to reduce the price.
Abby Hall Blanco is an assistant professor of economics at the University of Tampa, and she says those negotiations could lead to lower prices as HSN and QVC compete with companies like Amazon.
Now I can buy something on Amazon and have it sometimes at my house later in the afternoon. That's providing a new, very important source of competition for companies like HSN and QVC.
Companies that don't innovate don't survive, says Blanco.
I think retail caught off guard by that little thing called the internet.
Which is why she's optimistic when she hears QVC's president say things like this.
Folks are experiencing QVC or HSN not on a traditional TV platform, but over the top through Roku or on an iPad.
And that could be good news for the long-term stability of HSN employees, about 2,500 of whom work at the St. Pete headquarters. The deal is worth over $2 billion, or the equivalent of just $100 million easy payments of $19.99. I'm Adam Weiner for ABC Action News.
It's a bad time to be an American dairy farmer. Since 1970, the U.S. has lost more than 90% of its dairy farms. The small farms have been replaced by fewer, larger farms. And a national milk surplus makes it harder for the remaining small dairy farms to turn a profit. After nearly 70 years in operation, Curtis Coombs Family Dairy Farm in rural Kentucky is about to shut down. He's one of more than 100 dairy farmers who lost a contract with Dean Foods and the company's processing plant in Louisville, Kentucky. Dean Foods is closing the plant because Walmart, its primary customer, has decided to cut out the middleman. Walmart streamlined its milk operation by building its own processing facility and buying milk directly from large suppliers. Now Walmart no longer requires Dean's services, or its farmers.
breaking news from CBS 17 News.
Breaking news at this hour as Walmart just announced it is planning to raise prices on items impacted by tariffs on Chinese goods. The chief financial officer would not specify which items, but this could impact a large number of things like luggage, hats, gloves, basically anything made with industrial materials. Of course, the Trump administration recently raised $200 billion worth of tariffs on Chinese-made goods. Walmart imports 26% of the merchandise it sells from China.
Deutsche Bank is steeped in trouble, which is causing many to think it may not survive. Imagine what would happen if the world's sixth biggest investment bank goes belly up. Here's Deutsche Bank's bad news. In October 2015, it was hit with a record fine of $2.5 billion. Also in 2015, it recorded a record loss of $6.8 billion. In March 2016, it showed a derivatives of $54 trillion, meaning it was over-leveraged by 40 times at least. In 2018, it was accused of money laundering scandal with Danske Bank. In April 2019, German police raided the headquarters over tax evasion charges of $1 billion. And just this past week, Deutsche Bank said, after firing 18,000 workers, that it was simply restructuring.
Deutsche Bank's message to the world is that they are undergoing a restructuring, a routine restructuring like the ones that have happened every quarter for the past few years in order to return the business to profitability. In this current iteration, DB is attempting to shed its equities investments, its trading business, and shift over to primarily a lending business. But today, with the stock trading at $7 per share, that is down 95% from its peak in 2007, the lowest it's ever been in its 150-year history. DB is in an irreversible death spiral, and this restructuring is too little, too late.
1 year ago this month, a Chinese company bought America's largest pork producer, Smithfield Foods. The $4.7 billion deal is the biggest Chinese acquisition of a U.S. company to date. Nathan Halverson from the Center for Investigative Reporting looks into the Chinese government's role in the takeover.
A year ago, news broke that stunned the town. Chinese buyers had purchased Smithfield Foods.
That was the issue when it was announced. It just shocked it down. Nobody saw it coming.
Another foreign deal causing chatter, if not national security concerns.
Smithfield agreeing to be acquired by China's Shuangwei International for $34.
Chinese company today offering nearly $5 billion.
It would be the largest Chinese takeover of any American company.
Questions are being raised about why China wants our pigs.
The takeover raised concerns the Chinese government was a hidden player in the deal. Some members of Congress wondered why Shuangwei Group would pay more than Smithfield's market value.
The Chinese paid a 30% premium. Very interesting. Not exactly the best business deal. So what's really going on here? What really is it that this merger, this purchase, was all about?
Senator Debbie Stabenow heads the Senate Agriculture Committee. She says food is a strategic resource that should be as important to the U.S. government as oil.
This isn't just an acquisition of a company. It's 25% of the pork industry in the United States.
Stabenow worried that the Smithfield takeover could signal a long-term threat to the vital American food industry.
This is a precedent-setting case.
As the U.S. government reviewed the deal, Stabenow called a Senate hearing to take a deeper look at the first Chinese purchase of a major American food company.
This is really all about control.
Daniel Slane, a congressional advisor who receives classified China briefings from the CIA, warned of Chinese government involvement.
They have told their domestic industries, like Shuangwei, go out and find these companies and acquire them. And in effect, American companies are not competing with a Chinese company, but with the Chinese government, and they can't win that competition.
That's right.
Larry Pope, president and CEO of Smithfield Foods, said this was simply the case of one private company buying another.
Would you agree that Shuangwei is a state-controlled company?
No, I would not agree, Senator, that it is a state-controlled company. It is. I mean, I think that's fairly easy to research. So I just asked Mr. Slane to do the research, and maybe he's just gotten some bad information.
Some senators even laughed off Slane's remarks.
Did you realize you were the victim of a Chinese communist plot?
Senator, I did not. To this moment, I'm not sure I understand. I'm the victim of a communist plot.
And the control of your company somehow to allow China to control.
In his written testimony, Pope said the Chinese government has absolutely no ownership stake or management control in Shuangwei.
He's either lying or he's delusional, one or the other. I just don't think he understands the situation, and you can't expect him to be a China expert. I mean, his job is to do what's in the best interest of the shareholders.
The Treasury Department approved the deal last September. A special committee, which meets behind closed doors to evaluate foreign purchases of American companies, reviewed the acquisition to assess whether it posed a threat to national security, focusing on military defense. Since Treasury's final report is classified, the Center for Investigative Reporting spent 4 months determining if the Chinese government played a role in the takeover.
This is the one that we got for Shuangwei.
Carl Sanchez, the American lawyer who brokered the deal for Shuangwei, says the Chinese government's bank, the Bank of China, approved the $4 billion loan to buy Smithfield in a single day.
Bank of China it's owned by the government, so that the government has an initiative and they want to go forward with it. The advantage is that they can support that.
Sure. We had our financing all lined out. We were ready to roll. We were ready to sign that agreement. We're ready to provide commitment letters from the banks for about $5 billion in financing altogether.
In its annual report, the Bank of China highlights the Smithfield takeover, calling it their social responsibility and saying it spares no effort to support Chinese enterprises in their international competition. We asked Sanchez directly about the Chinese government's role in the deal.
So that part of the transaction, I'm not sure I can comment on. I'd have to check with the client first before I could comment on that.
So to find out more, we went to China. At factories like Shuangwei's, the government has established massive pork reserves, akin to oil reserves in the U.S., to store millions of pounds of frozen meat. In 2011, the government issued a 5-year plan directing food companies such as Shuangwei to obtain more meat for their production lines by purchasing overseas businesses. We went to Shuangwei's headquarters in Luohe, China.
Welcome to Shuangwei.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
We got a tour of the company from Zhang Tai-si, president of Shuangwei. Zhang, like other senior management at Shuangwei, was appointed to his position by the Chinese government.
How supportive was the Chinese government of Shuangwei's purchase of Smithfield Foods?
Very supportive.
How did the Chinese government support this deal?
The Chinese government has been supporting us with preferential policy as well as investment. For instance, the Bank of China has shown great support, both financially and politically.
And why has the government given so much support? Because Shuangwei, according to its own documents, is required to carry out China's 5-year plan. In effect, the Chinese government does exercise management control. We went back to Smithfield CEO Larry Pope, who is now an executive with the Chinese company, to ask whether he stands by his testimony to Congress.
I have never seen a government official related to this transaction from China at all.
We showed Larry Pope the Bank of China annual report that details their role in the Smithfield acquisition.
This is the Bank of China document where they lay this out.
I didn't know they did it in 24 hours.
You can see here, I just mark it. I mean, they're saying that transaction is part of the government's plan and they're supporting it and it's their social responsibility.
The bank performs its social responsibility. The bank spares no efforts to support Chinese enterprises in there. Wow. I mean,
How do you compete with that?
It's hard. I don't think I could go out today and get the U.S. government to support making a $4 billion loan as a social responsibility for Smithfield to move forward on a foreign country territory. No, I don't think that's doable in any industry that I can think of.
Sanchez, the lawyer for Shuangwei, says the Bank of China is set to fund many more Chinese takeovers.
I definitely think that the Shuangwei-Smithfield deal was a litmus test for Chinese U.S. deals, very large Chinese U.S. deals. I can tell you firsthand that this has paved the way for other deals. We are now looking at a few other very large transactions for Chinese clients, looking at other iconic brands in the United States.
Senator Stabenow said that if the Chinese government has a global food agenda that includes purchasing American food companies, the U.S. government should provide strategic protection for its food industry.
Food security is national security, and I can't imagine that the American people will feel comfortable if they wake up someday and find that half of our food processors are owned by China. And I think there's some very, very tough questions that need to be answered.
Stabenow is now drafting legislation that would require the Treasury Department to take a much harder look at foreign takeovers of American food companies.
And one footnote, the Chinese company Shuangwei in the story has officially changed its overall name to WH Group, but it still retains the name and use of Smithfield Foods for that brand of product since the deal was completed.
100 jobs are also being cut in Johnston County. Smithfield Foods announced it plans to close the Clayton Distribution Center by the end of next month. Most of the workers being laid off are supervisors and warehouse operators. This summer, CBS 17 reported on the pork farm battle between neighbors and Smithfield Foods. Jurors sided against Smithfield and decided the pork supplier should pay more than $500 million in damages to neighbors who had complained about noise, odor, and nuances.
Did you realize you were the victim of a Chinese communist plot?
Senator, I did not. To this moment, I'm not sure I understand. I'm the victim of a communist plot.
And the control of your company somehow to allow China to